I want to show y'all something that I want to show y'all China's response to the situation in Syria. Because some of y'all, if you've been around long enough, y'all know how I feel about China more or less. I don't hate China. I give them credit where credit's due, but also I'm a known skeptic of their intentions. And I'm not like that weird type of like, oh my God, China is a super imperialist nation. Like, no, I'm not like that. I'm not like super anti-China, like a neoliberal or neocon. But I'm just from a perspective of Pan-Africanism, of bilateral cooperation, and just a level of consistency that I expect from a country that claims to be allies with a lot of the global South. China's actions don't match their words. And I'm explaining what I mean in a second. So I want y'all to look at this response from China, its official response regarding Syria.
中方密切关注叙利亚局势发展，希望各相关方从叙利亚人民的根本利益出发，尽快找到恢复叙利亚稳定的政治解决方案。
谢谢。迪拜中央卫视记者提问：叙利亚总统巴沙尔的政权已结束。
叙利亚的前途和命运应当由叙利亚人民来决定。我们希望各相关方本着对叙利亚人民长远和根本利益负责的原则，尽快找到恢复稳定秩序的政治解决方案。中国对叙利亚的关系，或者跟叙利亚的友好关系，是针对全体叙利亚人民的。我们也在密切关注局势的发展，希望叙利亚能够尽快的恢复稳定。中方密切关注。
Yeah. So in case you missed it, she said a bunch of basically nothing. She said that the Syrian people should decide their future. The friendly relationship that China has had in the past with Syria is about the Syrian people. Not a word of condemnation, not real condemnation for the United States, their participation in overthrowing a government that was friendly with China, a government that was part of the BRICS coalition. I'm not gonna lie to y'all guys. I just think it's just time for China to shut the fuck up if they're not about to do anything. I'm over it. I really am. And like I said, I know a lot of leftists are gonna be upset at me for this. I don't really care anymore because I'm just like, I'm a person, I guess. I'm a type of person that's loyal to the soil. I'm a type of person that believes in actions. If China just sat back, handled their business, and I guess kind of acted like Switzerland, for example. Is it Switzerland or Sweden? I think it's Switzerland, yeah. Like everything, we just, hey man, we just get here to get our money. We don't want no problems. We ain't gonna cause no beef. Okay? We just work with everybody. Cool. Bad. All right. That's not what China does, though. China, like in the situation with Palestine, for example, will condemn what Israel does in Palestine. They'll condemn the genocide. Then they will continue to supply the U.S. contractors and the contractors that are in the weapons manufacturers with the supplies that they need to continue the genocide. Why the fuck are you condemning them while they're actively facilitating the genocide by providing the supplies needed because it helps your country profit? You're talking about, the friendly people. We're friendly with Syria. We're friendly. No, not only are you friendly with Syria, but Russia is one of your number one allies, and Russia was not only helping out Syria economically, but militarily, because that's what they needed from the same people, because they're protecting Syria and the interests that come along with Syria from the same adversaries that you're supposedly against. Russia literally putting blood on the line for their allies, for both of y'all's allies. And so not only do you not help, militarily. Okay, cool. You don't get involved militarily. Bet. But y'all do know that, for example, the Ukraine war would end today, not literally today, like in a week, if Russia stopped providing military supplies like that the manufacturers need to make the weapons that are being sent to Ukraine. You know that they would have to stop the war. They couldn't continue. That's a fact. If China stops, China, you can't scratch your ass or pick your nose without the CCP's approval. If China stops sending the materials needed to make the weapons that are being used in the genocide, that are being used against Russia, their principal ally, it would stop today. So we get a whole bunch of we want world peace, we condemn this, we da-da-da-da, we da-da-da-da. I'm not saying that China is necessarily responsible for the Western imperialism, but what I'm saying is, if you're going to sit back and profit from the chaos caused from Western imperialism, you're profiting from the failings of the economies, the governments, and the people who are suffering. You're profiting from the fucking problem that you're helping to, and you're making money off. I'm confused. I just don't get it. Why do they keep talking? What is an ally at that point? Because China pretends to be, they're part of BRICS. They pretend to be an ally of the global South. They claim to be an adversary of the United States. But the only time that China does anything to remotely punish its number one adversary is never whenever that adversary is destroying the lives and the economies and the governments of their allies. It's only if they piss off China itself. So China, for example, they finally have cut off a couple of raw, rare materials from the United States. But it's only because had nothing to do with the fuck that's been going on the last 4 or 5 years with, I don't know, United States and NATO facilitating a war against Russia, constantly encroaching on the situation with Taiwan, genocide, I don't know, like Africa, right? I mean, I can give you a whole host of other shit that should have caused them to commence sanctions and stop the sale of those materials to them. No, but it was because China feels some type of way about the aggression that the United States has participated in regarding this little semiconductor beef that they have. That's the only reason why. Now, I can respect the fact that China is willing to do whatever they can for their people. I can respect that. I really can. Because at least if China does some shit, you know it's going to benefit all of China. That's for sure. That's a great thing. Not like the United States, who fucks over the entire world and it's just to benefit like 10% of the country and that's it. So I guess okay, cool. But you see, Russia, even though they're handling themselves, right? They're taking care of themselves. But you see that your number one adversary, allegedly, is trying to obliterate your number one ally. And your number one ally is out there not only protecting itself and trying to protect its own borders, but it's trying to protect all of your other allies. And not just when it comes to the Ukraine situation, not just when it comes to Russia going out of its way to invite Palestine into BRICS, not just in Syria, but Russia has sent troops to Africa to protect countries that are actively working with China economically to help rebuild those nations after they took their countries back. And you ain't doing shit but talking and then coming, but hell, either before or after you talk or condemn, you come behind all the damage and chaos caused by what the United States and the Western Empire has done, and you just sweep up all the profits. They sweep up all the profits. They go it. People keep talking about, oh, but look what they do with Africa. What, you mean they offer the one alternative? There's only one alternative. Like, what are those African nations going to do? It's, I work with China to help rebuild my nation, or I'm fucked. The United States is going to do whatever they do, right? Like they're going to try to overthrow my government again. We're not going to have the money. We're going to have to rely on the IMF again, which is going to basically, so you're basically relying on austerity again, and you're just going to end up repeating the same pattern that landed you in that position to begin with. So China comes, offers a loan or two, offers to take over some businesses, doesn't talk about the slave labor that happens in Africa, because they're profiting off of the slave labor in the Congo too, in case y'all were curious. The slave labor in the Congo that is largely made possible because of the action of the United States and the West. And there's no choice. These African nations, for example, simply have the illusion of choice. It's, I have to work with China. I have to accept this money because the other option is I'm in perpetual debt to the Western Empire. At least this way, maybe the US will stay off my ass because they know we're involved with China's economy. So it's one thing to not want to get involved militarily. It's one thing to even stay neutral in situations. But China's not staying neutral. They're pretending to give a fuck and just making a bunch of money while doing it. While their allies, the people that they claim are their allies, are getting fucked over. And they're one of the very few countries around the world that has the military capability, if they wanted to use it. But more importantly, they have the economic capability to exert power and influence to help the allies, their allies, and most of those allies being the global South, they have the economic influence to exert. They have the economic influence to exert power in assistance of their allies, and they don't do it. They could have influenced the outcome of this genocide so far. They haven't done it. They could have helped their number one ally, at least from a strategic perspective, in Russia, when it comes to this Russia-Ukraine war. They haven't done it. They could have helped Syria under crippling sanctions that they're under, that they were under, rather. Because now we don't know what the hell's about to happen, but they didn't do it. And when they finally do come and they help out a country that fucking liberated itself with no help of China, they come, set up their fucking shops, and make all the money. And yeah, those countries are making more money and they're in a better situation. But like, what's better compared to being piss poor? Of course it's better. Like, yeah, we're at least some of our money's coming back to us. Thank God. Like, that's basically that's what the situation is. Of course they're going to accept that. That's much better than the US coming in and taking everything with their military. Okay, cool. But let's not pretend that China has been an ally of the global South. And it's time that we started calling them out as like the leftist community, the anti-imperialist community. Even for all you super staunch communists out there, especially y'all. Because like we still need to address this conversation that nobody wants to have. Everybody keeps talking about, yeah, China was able to lift its people out of poverty. That's great. But like y'all forgot that they engaged in rabid capitalism to do that. Literally, NAFTA made China what it is today. The US just, here you go. I know we say that you're our enemy, but here you go. Here's all the tools you need to be the richest country in the fucking world. They engage and partook in and propped up rabid capitalism, the most toxic kind of unregulated capitalism, to achieve what they've been able to achieve economically. Like that did not disappear. We can't erase that part of history. And we need to start having this conversation about China, because as much as I can respect what they've done for their people, and I do, there's the other side of the coin. And the truth is, there is more than one kind of imperialism. There isn't just hard power, I'm gonna punch you in the face if you don't give me your lunch money imperialism. There's hey man, you wanna be friends? I got some popsicles in my basement. Like pretending to be an ally and playing both sides while being neutral. That's like snake shit, honestly. So I'm not rocking with it. I feel like it's time we start calling that shit out. There's a lot of countries that let me down regarding the genocide that happened in Palestine. But this situation in Syria is crazy, because I'm like, bro, your allies got punched in the mouth just now. And your adversary is the one who did so. And your adversaries are about to wreak havoc in that region. And honestly, it probably is not for the benefit of China, but they don't want to upset anybody. They don't want to commit. They don't want to be forced to commit to taking action. So they're just hitting us with this. Yeah, man, we just think that the Syrian people should, they should decide who runs. Like, duh. What about your people that just got hit by terrorists that were supported by your adversaries? You got anything to say about that? Nah. But we just cashed another check. Ching. Can't rock with it. I can't respect it. Sparky, my sister walked at 9 months and taught herself to ride a bike without training wheels, without anyone knowing at 4. That's wild. That's crazy. I believe it though. I taught myself how to ride without training wheels. I was watching my neighbors ride, and the training wheels for some reason were throwing off my equilibrium. Like it was throwing off my balance. Like I always feel like I was about to fall when I would steer because bikes aren't made to be steered like that. They're made to lean. So whenever I had training wheels, I felt like I was about to fall all the time. And I couldn't ride fast. So I like, man, I'm taking these shits off. And I taught myself how to ride. Sparky, Assad refused help from Russia, Iran, and China over the last couple of years because he believed the West when they told him they will lift the sanctions if he refused their help. I don't know if you would say he believed them, but like I guess he had to kind of like, they're like, yo, we'll give you help if you stop. And he was trying to do what was best for his people at the time, but I'm sure that he was still taking some help from them. Russia, Iran, and China all agreed to write off Syria since it was rotted from the inside and refused their help. Nah, Russia and Iran were in Syria. So that can't. China's different. China is China, but Russia and Iran have been helping Syria, especially Russia, for the last couple of years pretty fervently. They've been dedicated to helping Syria. Which is part of the reason why I feel like because of the intelligence from Russia, it's probably how Assad was able to get out and get to Russia so quick. It's a messed up situation. I do know that. China still sells drone parts and jammers to Ukraine. Yep, they surely do. It's funny to read Ukrainians' positive reviews on Alibaba. That's wild. Of course, Russia still sells oil directly to the United States too. Yeah, but Russia made clear while they're selling oil to the United States, they're selling oil for rubles. They're selling it in their own currency, right? So what Russia does and why they do it, and they're pretty clear and honest about it. Like Russia can sell oil to the United States and make money from it because Russia's oil does not make or break the United States. But selling Russian oil in rubles does significantly help their economy. The United States already has their own oil. You get what I'm saying? Like they already have their own oil. They could survive with, I don't know. Actually, I still to this day don't know why the hell the United States is still buying so many people, so much oil around the world. Outside of the fact that they maybe want people to be reliant on, they probably want people to be reliant on the income that comes from the United States buying their oil. That's the only thing I can think of. But that's like a different story than what China does. China, if they didn't participate, for example, people always get scared that China and the United States are going to go to war with each other. I always say that's ludicrous, at least not for the next 10 years or so, because the U.S. going to fight a war with all the weapons that China gives them and makes for them? Like, hey, what? That's not how that works. That's not going to happen. But also, China, their economy is so symbiotic with the United States that they can't actually continue to make as much money as they would normally make. Their economy would take a massive hit if they went to war with the United States. The U.S. and China never put 100% sanctions on each other. Why not? They supposedly hate each other. The United States goes out of its way to literally conquer anything that resembles a communist or a socialist government. But the country that calls it, they're literally the one party country that, and their party is the Chinese Communist Party. They're like, yeah, man, we're going to make exception this time. And not only are we going to make an exception with them, but then China makes exceptions for the United States, not just regarding NAFTA or Tesla, for example, which nobody really ever talks about. The fact that Tesla was allowed to continue to run and is allowed to exist in China without a Chinese partner. And it's the only company that isn't Chinese or owned by a Chinese person that doesn't require a Chinese partner to operate. And Tesla was allowed to continue operations during COVID, and no other company in China was allowed to. Or the fact that this biolab that was funded by the United States and the NIH was allowed to exist in China. The biolab that leaked COVID. Nothing happens without the CCP's approval, right? So if y'all hate communist countries that much, why are y'all just like, and if y'all hate communist countries that much, and China considers the United States such a great adversary, why is it that they always conveniently end up working for each other in ways that actually kind of screw us over? At least the people of the United States. I can't speak for everybody, but I do know that they be screwing us over. Every time the United States works with China, it screws us. Every time. NAFTA fucked us. China probably like, yeah, man, they probably worked with us in that particular situation because they knew that, like, yeah, it's about to weaken the hell out of the United States. Bet. But the problem on that side is like, y'all are communists, but y'all are engaged in rabid, unregulated capitalism. And I'm not saying like it didn't benefit China. Of course it did, but it's just a lot of contradictions going on here, ain't it? Just saying, a lot of contradictions. I don't expect China to be altruistic. I'm just saying, stop fucking pretending you are. Stop pretending like you care about these. Stop pretending like these people are your allies. These countries are your allies. Stop coming out with fake condemnations and empty words. Stop. And like, I cannot continue to have respect for China as they continue to profit off of the Western imperialism that they supposedly are trying to challenge. Like, China always seems to show up after the chaos when it's most profitable for them. Very rarely do they show up beforehand. Very rarely do they show up when they're most needed, whenever it be mutually beneficial. They show up and give this illusion of choice. And I just don't rock with it, man. And I feel like we as leftists, like, if we're going to keep it a band, we have to tell the truth.